has received her Master of Science degree in nursing from East Carolina University. She also holds a certification in the care of adult medical and surgical patients. She is a wife, mother, and born again child of the Most High King.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Family Health Matters. I'm your host, Wendy Bridgers, and we are live here in the studio on Awesome Radio, WECU 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, Awesome Radio, and also on YouTube and Facebook. So we are live today and so glad to be here. Join us every Thursday from 3 to 3:30 for Family Health Matters because we know and believe that the health of our families do matter. So I'm excited today to have in the studio with me Julie Battle. And she is a new acquaintance of mine, but I have found out that she has a wealth of knowledge. And we're going to be talking about something that's very important to everybody, and it touches our lives and touches our families' lives in so many different ways. And so before we jump in, I just want to remind everybody that February is Black History Month, is Love Month, it's Valentine's Day, and it's also Heart Awareness Month. And on tomorrow, Friday, February the 7th, is Go Red. I have my red on, so I'm a little early. But I want you to wear your red on tomorrow and just to bring awareness to heart health and thinking, being mindful about taking care of yourself because your heart affects so many things, and cardiovascular disease just sort of um, just touches all parts of your organs and in your body. So that's one reason why we're talking about our subject for today is understanding dialysis. And people say dialysis, what in the world? But you know how often we talk about diabetes and we talk about hypertension and we talk about complications to those. And Julie's going to touch a little bit on just a little bit about that before we jump into actually understanding dialysis. I've had several people in my profession have asked me, well, and family members ask me, well, what happens doing dialysis? Why do people end up on dialysis? What can we do to prevent having to go on dialysis? So this is what we're going to focus on today. And I know 28 minutes is not very long, so it's a lot that we need to cover. So if you see, which might be unusual, see me not saying much, it's because I want Julie to be able to share her expertise because she is a registered nurse. She has a baccalaureate degree, and she has been working with dialysis and dialysis patients for ever since 2011. So that she's got some experience under her belt, and she's a preceptor, she's an educator, and she just has a lot to say. And she told me when we were talking about it, I'm gonna tell this on her. She said, just give me the space. I can talk all day long about dialysis. So I had to tell her that we only have 28 minutes, so we can't talk but so much. But I'm gonna sort of just quiet down a little bit, and we're gonna jump into this understanding dialysis. But first of all, Julie, thank you for being here today, and welcome to Family Health Matters.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Now you gotta talk loud because we want everybody to be able to hear you through that microphone. Okay?
Okay.
All righty, sounds good. So now tell me a little bit about why dialysis is so passionate for you.
It's where I started healthcare, and so it's just been my heart. It grabbed me from the day that I got in there. I was just like, if this is gonna be my field, I'm gonna have to take it and run with it. So the patients became family to me. They became, you see them so often, so they just, it's not like many other fields in healthcare, but you see them every other day. You probably see them more than you see your own family. So
Yeah.
um, it just became a passion of mine over time being here, and it won't let me go.
Well, that's important that you're doing something that you enjoy. And especially when you're passionate about it, then you look for opportunities to do things to help people improve their health and sharing education with patients as well as their family or with the clients as well as their families. So I want you to tell me a little bit about before we jump into actually what dialysis is. Tell me a little bit about some of the I mentioned this a little bit, some of the causes that could have a person to end up having to need dialysis?
So the two leading causes for dialysis would be hypertension and diabetes, and that is very prevalent in the African American community. So it's very near and dear to my heart because I do like to keep them informed when I'm speaking with these communities, because a lot of times they don't have the education provided in the communities all the time. They don't have the um, access to healthcare like many
Mm,
others do. So it's very important that word of mouth and the right education, evidence-based education is given to them instead of just, you know, things that have been said through time or, little things that maybe family members do or anything, being able to have that access to the information and the education they need to keep them informed of how to live better or healthier lives. So those two things are the leading causes of dialysis,
hmm.
and it takes effect so much sooner now than it used to. So you see a lot more younger patients. They're getting younger and younger coming into
Right.
dialysis, which is really sad, but that's why this is important to be able to, this family health matters, very important to the community.
Good, good. Thank you. And I agree with that. So true statement. Because uncontrolled diabetes and uncontrolled hypertension, those things are what we call chronic
Yes.
diseases, and those chronic diseases can I want to say eat at you, but can affect you over the long period of time. That's why we call them chronic diseases, because
Yes.
they're and even and tell me about this now. Even though you are controlled, I know a lot of times we talk about people have, uncontrolled diabetes and uncontrolled hypertension. But with it being controlled, does that increase the risk of possibility of being on dialysis in the long term? Or how does that, what do you think?
So being controlled can hold off dialysis. It
Uh huh.
can, so just like your diet, you might have a better diet, but if you're when you're on a road towards something, you can only like lessen how that is going to happen, or lessen, widen that gap to when you get to the final destination. But you having that control, being able to take your medications like you're supposed to, definitely helps keep off dialysis for a longer period of time. And you might be able to get to a point where you can keep your numbers and your lab values in a place where dialysis might not have to be your portion.
Right, right. Good, good. And that goes back to what we always tell people about making sure you know your numbers. That when you go to your doctor's office and or your care provider, is that you ask them, what your numbers are, because I've heard so many people say that when they go visit the doctor or their nurse practitioner or whoever they go visit for their well care, is they'll do the labs or they'll do the blood pressure and they'll say, oh, that's good, but never tell them a number.
Right.
And I encourage people, don't let it stop at that. Ask them what that number is, because your okay might not be my okay.
Right.
And unless you ask, sometimes people don't always volunteer to do that.
Right. And I'd just like to touch on something you said, being able to go to your care providers. A lot of times, in dialysis, we see people come in the hospitals and they're crashing, and they don't even know that their kidneys are not working. They don't know that they have, had kidney failure for so long, because it takes so long for your kidneys to actually start saying, hey, I need help.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, they can be functioning all the way down to 15% before they are like, help me.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
you would never even know. Your body doesn't even have symptoms, doesn't have things like that at times to be able to tell you that you need help before you get to dialysis. But you have patients coming in the hospital and they're just crashing because their kidneys have not had help for so long, and now they're in fluid overload. It's causing many other problems within their body. Other organs are being affected by this time. So it is very important. Very important. I cannot stress enough how important it is to have a primary care provider, even though sometimes you get the little people feel like it's voodoo, or like,
Uh-huh.
they
Yeah.
want to
You're right. Yeah.
keep off,
Yeah.
don't want to go see the doctor, don't want to, they feel like doctors don't have all the best intentions. But even if you have to sift through some of the information that they have, at least you know your numbers, at
Right.
least you
Right.
have information that you can do something with.
Absolutely. That's very, and I like that what you said about, people don't like to go. And you have to sometimes, this is what we call family health matters. So you have to encourage these family members And you mentioned something earlier about as the seeing dialysis on younger people.
Yes.
And I found too that our African male, they feel that they're well. Some of them
Yes.
look like they're healthy and or they big and muscular and all
Mm-hmm.
that, and they're not going to see a primary care provider, and so they don't know what their blood pressure is sitting at.
Right.
And there's a lot of stress in the
Yes.
world that can cause, and that's a whole nother show, so we can't get into that. So, and I said I wasn't going to talk much, but I can't emphasize and agree with you that going to see a primary care provider annually, if you don't go every 6 months, but at least go once a month to get checked out. And then in that process of going, then write down some questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And if you don't like what you hear, go find somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to stay. You can go find somebody else, but go
Go. That's
go and
right.
get your
That's right.
numbers and find out because hypertension is called the silent killer and it's
Mm-hmm.
called that for a reason.
That's right.
And okay,
Absolutely.
we talked a little bit about chronic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now there's a such thing as acute kidney failure.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's talk about it just a little bit really quickly.
Okay. So, in acute kidney failure, or when you would be on dialysis because your kidneys are not functioning, it doesn't always have to be because it's a disease process.
Mm-hmm.
It could be something that happened, whether it be a medication you took, or it could be a car accident, or some type of I think I said medication, but if they give you dye in the hospital or something that caused your kidneys to kind of shut down suddenly, you
Mm-hmm.
would we would consider that acute kidney failure. And at that point, there can be recovery. Your kidneys can come back. There's definitely a possibility for that. Most oftentimes in the dialysis setting, we are looking at chronic kidney failure, which is a disease process, which is you don't really come back from that.
Right, right.
So that's one of the main questions when you first start dialysis. When a patient first starts dialysis, they're asking, well, am I going to get off of this? Or there's been a false sense of hope that somebody has given them that maybe you might be able to get off of dialysis. Maybe your kidney starts working again. But the reality of it is, if you're not in that acute um, stage, if
Mm-hmm.
it's truly a disease process that has taken place, it is a part of your life at that point. And I think sometimes patients are given a false sense of hope that their kidneys will start back working. But if you've had chronic hypertension, if you've had chronic diabetes, and you have this disease process that has taken its toll on your body, then that is kind of like a part of your lifestyle at that point.
Right, right. And it doesn't mean that it ends your life.
No,
you know
absolutely
and
not.
and and I think some people think that you talk about end stage renal disease and or chronic renal failure, then I'm doomed. No, that's the process of having dialysis, and now that's what we're going to jump into now, saying that we talked about what can be some of the causes, but we want to talk a little bit now about um, I have diabetes, I have hypertension, and I'm at this point now that I am on dialysis, but I can still live.
That's right.
And you can still have a life, and you can have a good life. A good life. So tell us a little bit about what dialysis actually is.
So dialysis is the process where your kidney is no longer functioning or functioning at a very low rate.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you need an artificial kidney or another form of getting toxins and fluids off of your body. And that process is called dialysis.
So it's a big old filter.
Yes,
So
in
it's
some cases, if you're
okay.
doing hemodialysis, so we have two different kinds of
Okay,
dialysis.
tell us a little bit about that. We got some
so,
time.
so if you're doing hemodialysis, you do have a filter that your blood glow. It uses your blood to filter the toxins out of your body and get the fluid off your body. If you're doing peritoneal, which you might also hear as PD dialysis,
Mm-hmm.
then you're using some channels inside of your body that are being used as a filter. You don't see a physical filter. It's your body filtering out itself in a different way than using your bladder and your kidneys. So,
Okay. Now, and I know this, but being visible, I know we're on the radio, but on Facebook, but
okay.
hemodialysis, you said the blood. So sort of just run through what you have to have because you have to have access, right? So tell us a little bit about the access and maybe just now you think about it, think in your mind that I know I'm going to bring you down a little bit. I know you up there professionally, but bring it down a little bit. But think about a family member that's trying to understand what goes on with their loved one when they go to the hemodialysis unit.
Well, I love this analogy that I used
Okay,
for a
great.
family member of mine. So I and this was trying to scare them straight. So not
Okay,
to
all
scare
right, y'all.
anybody,
Brace
but
yourself there. Brace yourself.
but my father has hypertension, and one time I went to his house and he had gone through a whole box of hot pockets, and I was mad. I was mad at him. So the next day I went to work and I brought some needles home. I brought the biggest needle I could find, and I said, "Dad, do you want this needle up in your arm every day, every other day?"
Okay.
I said, "If that is not what you want, you have got to do better with this diet." So that is when you're in hemodialysis, it takes either needles or you have a perm cath. So um, people who go into the hospital and crash, a lot of times with their kidneys crashing, they are going to have a catheter in place. So that is a port that goes straight into your heart, but it accesses your blood.
Now, I'm going to stop you now. You say crash. That means that they're emergency.
Yes,
Okay. All
emergency
right.
there.
We can say crash. We know what crash is, but we ain't
Okay.
crashing the car. So
Okay.
crash is they're an emergency condition.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right. Go ahead.
And so they come in and they have to get emergency port placed,
Hmm.
and then you would be able to access their blood from that way. That's the vascular system. But if you have been going to your doctors, like we have already been talking, then your doctors will have you on a schedule to get an access place, which is either a fistula or a graft. And that is another means to be able to get to your vascular system. So you would use needles in order to access a fistula or a graft.
Okay. And
And so
now I'm going to say your vascular system is.
your blood.
Okay, it's the way your blood circulates through your body, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, because this hemodialysis takes the place of your kidney, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it sort of bypasses that kidney.
Ye-
Okay,
yes.
all right, keep going, keep going. You're doing good.
So I guess maybe a day in the life of a dialysis patient when they first come to the unit, you would sit down with, you have some of your team members, which would be, of course, your social worker sitting down, your dietitian sitting down with you, the nurses on the floor, and the techs that would be part of your team that would now be helping you through your day on a usually 3 days a week process.
Okay.
So dialysis when you are chronic kidney disease, end stage renal disease failure, you will be in dialysis 3 days a week, either Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. One of the things that I like to discuss with my patients to kind of get their mind and their perspective a little bit different than where they are when they come in, because they are kind of sad, they are kind of thrown off or drawn back, or going through a grief process
Right.
because they are losing part of their life that they knew before. But
Mm-hmm.
like you said before, it doesn't mean that life is over. So a lot of times I like to sit down with the patients and talk with them and have really in-depth conversation about, you have to either look at this like you're in a job, or look at this where um, this is just a part of your day. This does not have to be um, where you're losing life.
Right.
You just have a few hours out of your day that you have to dedicate towards making sure that you're healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so diet is a very big instrument to be able to use because it helps you stay healthy. You can be a healthy dialysis patient.
Uh-huh.
A lot of
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
may see a lot of dialysis patients, but you have to be compliant. You
Right.
have to do what you're told to do. You
Right.
can.
Yeah.
This is not a if I want to, because that will lead you down the wrong road eventually.
Uh-huh.
But sitting down with that patient and talking to them about, just changing their perspective, not looking at this as an end. I've had patients that have been on dialysis 30, 40, 50 years, and they live vibrant and great lives, but they have to be compliant. You have to
Mm-hmm.
change your diet. You have to do and take the medications that, are helping you survive.
Yeah.
But they sit down. We talk through how dialysis is going to work for them, what dialysis does for them. So, as we already said, dialysis is the means, like your toxins are building up on your body because you're either not urinating as much as you have in the past, or now you're completely not urinating at all, which means those toxins start to build up on your body. If they're building up, they're causing you not to feel good. They're
Mm-hmm.
causing you not to want to eat. They're causing you to forget and not feel like you have an altered mental status, like not feeling like yourself a lot of the time. So we talked to them about that's why it's important for them to come for those 3 days, get the necessary time on their machine that they need to have in order to get the dialysis that is going to help them. Because what I would hate for my patients, what I tell them I don't want for them, is for them to be showing up regularly but then cutting their treatments or
Uh-huh.
not doing what they need to do, and then dialysis doesn't seem to be working for them.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
and that's a big misconception because they're
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I came, and then you're like, yeah, but you didn't stay, you didn't get everything cleaned off, you didn't get all the fluid off, or I cannot, this is another big one, is fluids. So
uh,
with not being able to get those fluids off of you on a regular basis, where we can, a person not on dialysis can urinate throughout the day. This process, maybe 3 to 4 hours, is your body urinating basically
mm-hmm.
and getting all those toxins, those fluids off. So if you have to skip a day of urinating, you have to remember you can't drink that 2 liter soda.
Right. That's good.
you
That's
can
good.
you
Yeah.
cannot you cannot eat all the soup because it's hot outside or because it's cold outside. You cannot do all of those things. So you have to be very intentional with how much you're drinking or what you're doing. So you got to make sure that you keep that in mind as a dialysis patient. Or if that's where if you're going to the provider and they're talking about these things, these are the things you want to change so
Mm-hmm.
that
Right.
dialysis doesn't have to be your portion. Now, when we're having this discussion, I know we're trying to understand dialysis as its process, but also prior to dialysis, if you change those habits, some of those habits that cause you to have hypertension, or your eating habits, some of the things that are causing your kidneys not to work properly, then you will be able to change the ending.
Right.
You can
Right.
divert.
Divert. Right. That's good. Yeah. And not end
So
up at
right.
dialysis.
So I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
when you have diabetes and they tell you change your diet, you much rather have a diabetes diet than a dialysis diet because it's definitely different.
Yeah.
There's a
Yes.
lot of
So,
things you can't have.
yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And I appreciate how you elaborated on, the day of a dialysis patient, because family members are not there
Hmm.
when dialysis is going on. So when they come off of dialysis or wonder, what are they doing for a whole 3 hours? Yeah, they're sitting in a recliner, but that's the part of the piece where they're washing all those impurities that you just talked about out of their system. And that, family members can help support even down to where you were just talking about with the diet.
Hmm.
That if you see, John Doe, hey, you missed dialysis and now you drinking all this water, or you drinking all of this, you got to be cautious because we haven't had the opportunity to, pull any fluid off. So
Right.
I think that's good. So how can family members, can they come to dialysis or that?
So a lot of times when family members show up, their support one is being able to bring their family member to dialysis
Mm-hmm.
or pick them up. They can stay in a waiting area most of the time, but being allowed on the treatment area because there's so many different people's blood it becomes an infection control issue.
Right,
So
right.
it's not typically
Okay.
something that is allowed. Sometimes you have patients who are confused, might have dementia or things like that, and they may allow a family member to sit with that patient and keep them calm or something like that. But on a regular basis,
Just
you
to come
would
in there and sit with
just to
them,
sit
they
is
can.
more risk to the family member than
Then
to
to,
because we're always in PPE or something to
right,
protect us
right.
from the environment, and we don't want to expose family members to those type of germs and
Right.
things like that. Different.
Okay, because so, but just listening to you talk, and we're almost running out of time.
Okay.
But listen to you talk, that the families are included in the education process
They are included in the whole plan.
and the whole plan of care.
Yes, because they
Awesome.
help them
Yeah.
stay on track with taking medications, watching them. We can't watch them at home,
Right. Right.
making sure that being reminders for them not to drink or not to do certain things. So, yeah, family is a very big part of their plan.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well. really, really quickly now, and I know this was huge. We didn't even touch on peritoneal dialysis, so I guess Julie's gonna have to come back,
I
and we're going
guess
to have to do a
so.
part two because we want to make sure that we get everything out here as much as possible. But really, just really quickly, what would you say to a patient or to a client or family member about dialysis? Is one thing that really, really short that really burns in you that you would like to just share before we go off the air?
You just have to be compliant. Sometimes it doesn't always feel good, just like us having the person who's not on dialysis being able to exercise on a daily basis. It's hard for us to stick to it.
Uh
But if
huh.
you want to see a result, if you want to see a difference, you have to do that. Same with a dialysis patient, you have to be compliant in order for it to work for you.
Awesome. Great, great, great information. I know it's a short period of time, but we are so glad that you took time out of your busy day to come share your wealth of knowledge with us. This was awesome. And I do appreciate you for coming on today. I hope everybody out there got something from this and that you're going to be better. And hopefully, we'll get to the point that we're not going to need dialysis, but should family members do, we're so thankful that that is there for us as far as being able to have a quality of life. So again, I'm your host Wendy Bridgers. We are here every Thursday from 3 to 3:30 on Awesome Radio. Family health matters because we know and we do believe that the health of our family members do matter. Thank you, Julie, for being here with us. Everybody have a great day and take care. And remember, we're red tomorrow for
Hello
Spark Out.
to our awesome
Bye,
radio
everybody.
friends
Have a
and
good one.
partners. This is Akila speaking here. You can reach us at 252-756-3137. We thank you so much for listening to our awesome radio network of stations. WBISLP Espanol 106.9 FM Winterville, WYLT 100.3 FM Rocky Mount, WECU 1570 AM and 107.5 FM. We are Awesome Radio.